Hello and welcome to this week's review. We have a box from Bluesound for you, a streamer, or as the company likes to describe it, a wireless Mult-Room high-res music streamer. Me, well, I just prefer to call it the Node. Now the Node is here to replace the earlier model, the 2i, which is one I've already reviewed. I'll put a little link above if you want to look at that. The 2i was priced at £499, at least it was when I grabbed one. The Node is priced at £549. Now, I was a bit late to the party when I reviewed the last incarnation of this product, the 2i. That was back in December of 2019, and I liked that little box very much indeed. In fact, I gave it an award-winning rating on my website. Now, as for that price, well, considering what's happened to the world in the meantime and how prices have leapt upwards, then upwards, then upwards again, to be able to buy the new Node at just £50 extra is in some respects quite remarkable, especially when you assume that Bluesound may, and I hope, have improved matters in terms of sound and design. So a virtual pat on the back to the company for that one. Now, before we get too deep into the weeds, I think we need to look at some techie stuff. So let's take a closer look. I wonder if Bluesound has rearranged the furniture on this one and possibly rearranged the parts too, maybe adding efficiencies and extra goodies. Now, why do I say that? Well, this chassis is exactly the same size as the 2i. The 2i and the Node, no difference in terms of size. The Node is actually heavier though. The 2i weighed in at, let me think, 1.12 kilograms. There's a figure that burns in my memory. 1.12 kilograms was the weight of the 2i. The new Node hits 2.28. The front of the chassis remains the same, with a status light that offers a variety of information via its coloured feedback illuminations, and I recommend you check out the manual for a full key to what flashing blue means, or purple, or alternating red and green, and so on. There's a whole rainbow key there. You also get on the front the same 3.5mm headphone socket as well. The top plate of the chassis features a touch screen area that does register changes from the earlier 2i. The 2i offered a play, pause, volume up and down, and previous next track option buttons. All these were touch buttons. The Node essentially repeats that, but does add 5 presets, although you must configure them with the attendant app, which I'll get to in a moment. And the volume control on the Node has a sort of sliding effect. So you just place your finger on top of the chassis and you slide your finger across. The rear of the Node is almost exactly the same as the earlier 2i. That means running from left to right, a pair of RCA outputs, a coax output, and a subwoofer output. Moving further along to the right, we find an optical port, and then 3 smaller ports handling optical in, trigger out, and IR in, which is for programmable remotes. It's a sort of extender. To the right of that lot is an Ethernet port that sits above a USB-A port, so you can plug in music-loaded USB sticks. And this is where the almost exactly bit comes in, because instead of the earlier service ports to update firmware, you will find a HDMI ARC port instead, to enable you to connect this box to your television. In terms of installation, while you can operate the basic functions of the Node from the top plate of the chassis, the meat and potatoes, the everyday control of the Node, is undertaken by a downloadable app. I tried it on my phone and also on my laptop. You can, if you wish, use a physical remote control, but you will need to buy that separately, and that will cost you £49. Now, some of you out there will dislike this intensely and declare that the remote should have been bundled as part of the package, which, yes, I can see that very point. However, if the choice meant adding another £50 or so to the basic price, it's nice to have the option. The option, that is, to add value to the basic Node system itself, or to save yourself a few extra pennies. Once on my smartphone, the setup of the Node was surprisingly easy. I say surprisingly because I do remember having no end of trouble installing the app on my earlier 2i. I recall that my Wi-Fi just refused to see the 2i, so I actually ended up using the 2i in wired mode exclusively. It would have been nice to have had the option though. For the Node, well, I had absolutely no issues. The app loaded first time. Bluetooth was connected in seconds, although I had to jump through a couple of app-related install hoops. The app was fully installed and ready to go in under 5 minutes. So that, at least for me, was a definite improvement right there and then. Now, the app is straightforward to use and includes a host of music services, as you might expect. Everything from Qobuz to Amazon, Napster, Tidal, Spotify, and the rest. I was most surprised to see Neil Young's online music service listed in the app. I actually thought that was a nice touch and one I've never actually seen before as a default option on an app like this. So far, so good. But what does this streamer actually sound like? Well, let's go to the sound quality tests and we will find out. To begin, I selected Amazon Music as my streaming service of choice and played Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill because that's what everyone else seems to be doing at the moment. But hey, I've always liked Ms. Bush, ever since she scared the British public half to death when she offered us her famous TV performances of Wuthering Heights. A true artist is our Kate. Anyone who can write a song with the infinite numbers of pi as the lyric has my vote. But back to the plot. Now, this first point is also a general tip, but it's just as important for the Node, if not more so. This box will produce a satisfactory audio output via Wi-Fi. But if you want a real sense of quality from the Node in terms of sonics, then I highly recommend hooking it to a wall and listening in wired mode via the Ethernet port. I tried both. Wi-Fi mode was good. It offered a wide soundstage which impressed me from the off. The music was stretched far left and right, and the soundstage really did feel like a stage. Bass was reasonably good without being amazing. It was nimble, fairly precise, and full of impact, but it lacked a little bit of weight and prevented a sense of balance overall. The mids and treble were focused and full of information, but the upper mids especially were dangerously close to being a little bit clinical. They were distinctly cool, put it that way. Now, moving to wired mode via the rear-mounted Ethernet port, and the difference was obvious. The bass was the principal beneficiary here, with a larger, beefier, more characterful presentation, adding useful balance to the song itself, and a sense of weight and presence, which it desperately needed. The mids were also better controlled, especially during crescendos, with a more mature feel to the upper frequencies as a whole. Both Qobuz and Amazon Music really benefited from the change, playing the same Kate Bush track. I then grabbed an astell&kern CAN Alpha and connected a high-res Tom Waits has always been high-res, hasn't he, to the node itself via aptX HD in Bluetooth terms, of course, and played, how do you pronounce it, Tom Trober's Blues, plus another track, a very witty comment on consumer culture called Step Right Up, and was happy to hear a broadly balanced output with only a slight lift around the upper mids and treble. No surprise, as this was still a relatively compressed stream, but a presentation that was absolutely listenable, especially for a basic stream. The node allowed Bluetooth to become a viable music source instead of an encumbrance, and something to be merely tolerated. So what was next? Well, I plugged in a USB stick in the rear and I played a track by a guy called David Elias at 24-bit 88.2. This is a singer-songwriter. It's a sort of man and guitar thing, and it sounded very nice indeed. In fact, the source also showed how much better the node sounds via non-streamed music, and when a source file has to travel the networks of the world just to get to your ears. When you can inject music directly from a device using a single connection, the node, well, it takes note, as it were. This track offered a very relaxed, easygoing presentation with a rather smooth mid-range, well-disciplined yet firm lower frequencies, plus a treble response that was simple yet delicate. Now, what pleased me about the differences was I could hear the differences, and that indicated that the node had headroom to spare. If you give the node quality, it will give you that quality back. There is capacity here over and above a streaming signal. Now, listening to this same track in particular via the front-mounted headphone port, and I plugged in a pair of Sennheiser 660Ss, I was happy to hear that the overall sonic quality, the personality of the sound, actually followed the speaker output. The only difference I could really hear was possibly a slight lack of space and air, but in return you got extra detail and more precision in the mids and the bass. And that's a kind of headphone thing, I suppose, certainly at this price point. So, how should I conclude this interesting review of the Bluesound node? Well, let me do a few concluding thoughts, a few pros and cons, and I'll give this box a rating. Now, the Bluesound node offers a small footprint, but it packs in a host of digital-oriented features that will, for many, provide all they will ever need on a digital level. Well, until the next big thing arrives, at any rate. More than that, it processes the sound from each very well indeed, providing a highly attractive sonic replay for each. In broad terms, should you upgrade from the 2i to the current node? Now, again, in general terms, I prefer the new design, but any change from a 2i to a node will largely be a sideways move. So I would encourage you, if you're in a upgrading frame of mind, to double your budget and look at devices around the 1K mark. On the other hand, if you've not yet purchased a digital front end, or you currently use a budget model from someone like, oh, I don't know, say Topping or someone like that, then the Bluesound node will provide you with an easy to use and feature-packed upgrade. It sounds great, it's packed with value, which is an essential element all on its own nowadays, and it does the job. So let's look at a few pros and cons, shall we? On the good side, well, prices are going up all over the place at the moment, and if you're looking for a streamer, then you're looking for value for money, and the Node certainly gives you that. In addition to that, the Node gives you features, and there's certainly a lot to choose from this box. In terms of sound quality, well, in general terms, I was very happy with this right across the board. Treble, mid-range, bass, I was very happy. For the price that you're paying here, the sound quality was very good. What I liked about the Node was its capacity. If you gave it a good quality source signal, it would return the enhancement in that good quality source. It knows the difference between a good quality source and an average mediocre one. And I like that ability to tell that difference. I also liked the small footprint of the box itself. If you have space issues, the app itself, I also thought was very nicely designed in terms of its usability, the installation, and all of that jazz. On the bad side, in terms of cons, well, frankly, there aren't any. Not at this price point. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to give the Bluesound Node an award-winning rating. It's going to get an 8 out of 10 and a groovy award. Congratulations to Bluesound. And that's it, folks. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this video. Thank you for your support. And if I could ask you down yonder, if you could click on the like and subscribe buttons, it just helps this channel to grow. Down below in the description, you'll find some live chapter headings if you want to navigate around the video. There's links to my Facebook group, my website, and my Patreon page. If you can support me on Patreon, it keeps me going. It's absolutely essential to keep this channel going because, believe it or not, I make very little cash on YouTube. I'm talking about maybe, I don't know, for this video, maybe £20, and then it drops from there. That's my typical income per review. It's an awful lot of time and effort spent for very little income back from YouTube. I really do this entire job in terms of YouTube as a sort of awareness just to get myself and my work out there. That's why I run this channel. And to see your friendly faces, of course. And if you can support me on Patreon, then it really does help. I would love to see you again and have more of your company on Tuesday for Tuneful Tuesdays. And we're looking at a magazine, I reckon. So I hope to see you there. Until that time, folks, bye-bye for now.